Today we're going to be painting this 3D printed clone medic from Darkfire Designs for Star Wars Legion. Hello, my name is Ryan and welcome to my YouTube channel. Darkfire Designs makes some awesome sculpts and is one of my favorite creators for proxy Star Wars models. I'm not sponsored or anything, I just really like their models. This guy was printed on my Elegoo Saturn with standard Elegoo Resin. My first steps for painting clones, and honestly most models I paint, is to do a zenithal highlight. I've got a separate video up here explaining that process, but it's basically that I prime in black and then spray pure white from above. I personally use an airbrush, but it can be done with spray cans as well. The zenithal highlight is going to help do a lot of the work on this clone medic for us. It's going to help create some natural looking shadows on his armor without a lot of work. Next up, I'm going to take some watered down black paint and get all of the exposed parts of the undersuit, the boot trim, the visor, the gun, and all the other details that need to be black. Any black should do here. Use your favorite one. I'm using Army Painter Matte Black for mine. Let me know down in the comments what your favorite black paint is for this. I like to get this step out of the way first because we can come back with the white later and fix any mistakes. Sometimes it's hard to reach some of those undersuit sections without getting some black on the armor and parts around it. That's okay. This is good practice for brush control and you'll get better at it over time. I like my black paint to be pretty thin down here as well, because it helps to flow into the recesses and grooves. It fills in some of the undersuit sections with little effort and makes it pretty easy to paint the visor as well. I've never used a clone medic in my Star Wars Legion games, but I've always been interested to try it out. Just the idea of bringing back a downed clone trooper or healing a wound on one of my Jedi, it's pretty tempting. Next, I'm going to take some white, water it down a bit, and then start painting over any of the highest raised edges. Any bits of his armor that are facing upwards on the miniature. When thinning my paints with water, I like to test the consistency of the paint on my fingernail and sometimes on the skin of my thumb. If it pulls up and has gaps, it's too thin. If I can't see the lines and crinkles on my skin, then my paint is still too thick. It can take some practice to get things just where you want it. I don't have a video yet for thinning paints, so let me know in the comments if you'd like to see one from me. I'm going to be painting the white all over the top of his helmet, his shoulder pads, parts of his arms, and other exposed bits. Any raised portion of the armor gets some white highlights. This helps it stand out a bit against some of the natural shading we got with our zenithal highlight. It also helps the armor read as white when looking at it. Very few things are pure white, and if we painted all of his armor white, it would look odd to the eye. You wouldn't see any highlights or shadows, and it would probably look very flat. So anytime you're painting white, you probably want to use just a little bit of gray for the base color so that your highlights will still pop. Next up, I'm going to be using some Army Painter Pure Red. I'm going to thin this down quite a bit, and we're going to use this to paint his medic symbol on his left shoulder pauldron. Luckily, Darkfire Designs made the symbol slightly inset, so we won't have to freehand it. This is still going to be some good practice for brush control, because we don't want to get red on the white section of the armor around it. If we do though, we can easily come back with some more white to touch this up. This is also a great time to touch up any black sections that we messed up on too. We can take a quick look over the whole mini to see if we missed any. This ring around the symbol will also be red, and definitely took some patience and steady hands to get it. When I need to really steady my hands, I like to brace my painting hand up against my hand holding the model. With my elbows rested on the table as well, this creates a very sturdy triangle. Now when I'm painting the thin ring, I only need to carefully move my fingers and I don't have to worry as much about my hands shaking. And it's much easier to control than moving my entire painting arm. Now, let's move on to the base. I'm going to take some Army Painter Desert Yellow and cover the entire base. This is only thinned down a little bit, not quite as much as any of the other paints I've used so far. I then went ahead and added some black trim around the edge of his base rim. I usually save this step for last, but I hadn't yet decided that I wanted to go back and paint the rocks gray to add a bit more color to the base. I then went back over the entire thing with a coat of Agrax Earthshade. Lastly, I took my tweezers and added a small tuft of grass to his base for some added detail. I didn't realize when I put on the Agrax that the gray wasn't fully dry. This actually wiped away a little bit of the gray, but I thought it gave it a cool effect. A happy little accident. Now it looks like the sand has blown across the top of some of the rocks. And there we have it, the finished, for now, clone medic for my Star Wars Legion clone army. Since he's a phase 2 clone, I'll probably only use him with my 501st Battle Force. I was debating whether I should paint him up with some blue markings on his armor. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see a future video on that. If you've enjoyed this video, please like it and consider subscribing if you haven't already. If you'd like to help support the channel, I have a Patreon linked below. By joining the Adventurers Guild, you get access to a lot of cool things, like voting on what videos I'll make next, and access to exclusive channels on my Discord, where you can share pictures of your miniatures that you're working on and ask for critique or advice directly from me. I also have a few Amazon affiliate links below to hobby products and paint supplies that I actually use and recommend. Anything purchased through these links helps support the channel at no additional cost to you. Thank you so much for watching, and if you need help painting eyes, click on the video on the screen right now.